Embracing my fiancée soldat one last time, I turned and made my way through passport control. Looking back as I walked towards the plane, I could see her waving at me from the airport balcony. I was going to miss her, but I was excited about my 4-day trip to Santiago in Chile, where some of my friends were going to play rugby. That night, high winds meant we had to stop over in Argentina, but the following day, 13 October 1972, we set off again and there was a party atmosphere on board among the 42 passengers. I went to sit next to my best friend, Gaston, but someone had beaten me to it, so I took a seat further forward. The stewardess kept asking us to sit down, but no one was listening. Around 90 minutes into our flight we hit an air pocket, and then another rougher one, and I heard the pilot shouting, "Give me power." I felt that the plane was in a steep incline and we were heading straight towards a mountain. Then there was a huge crash as the wing hit the rocks. Thrown back into my seat, I put my head between my legs and closed my eyes, convinced, at 24 years old, I was going to die. I felt air and snow whipping past me as the plane slid down the mountain. Thrown back into my seat, I put my head between my legs and closed my eyes, convinced, at 24 years old, I was going to die. I felt air and snow whipping past me as the plane slid down the mountain. Thrown back into my seat, I put my head between my legs and closed my eyes, convinced, at 24 years old, I was going to die. I felt air and snow whipping past me as the plane slid down the mountain. Thrown back into my seat, I put my head between my legs and closed my eyes, convinced, at 24 years old, I was going to die. I felt air and snow whipping past me as the plane slid down the mountain. 16 days after the crash we heard a sound like 300 horses galloping towards us. As I tried to stand up, everything imploded. The oxygen was sucked out of the fuselage as an avalanche buried us all under meters of snow. My friend Fito's foot was on my face, creating an air pocket, but with so little oxygen I felt my body surrender to death. Then Fito was lifted out of the snow and my lungs filled with air. We dug like animals to rescue the others, but 8 people died. We spent 3 days cramped into the fuselage. Everything was covered in snow and we couldn't even stretch our legs. Eventually we dug a tunnel towards the cockpit and escaped through a window. Seeing my friends emerging into clean, white snow after being buried for 3 days felt symbolic, like we had all been reborn. However, spending that time in such cramped confinement caused gangrene in my right leg. To avoid needing amputation, I cut a deep cross in my foot with a razor blade to allow oxygen to the wound and so I could release the pus. From then on I was in too much pain to move and could barely eat. I lost 45 kilos, half my body weight. But my friends brought me water each day and insisted I ate. Then, on 12 December, Roberto Canessa, Nando Parado and Antonio Tintin Vicente set off to walk to Chile to find help. Throughout November we prepared them for the expedition, giving them more rations, better sleeping places and a sleeping bag we made. Although Tintin returned, miraculously Roberto and Nando crossed the Andes on foot in 10 days. Their story was told in the book Alive, but their bravery is not mine to recount. Instead I was one of the men waiting behind. I decided that if help didn't arrive by 24 December I'd allow myself to die. But on the 22nd we heard help was coming. We all hugged and for the first time used our water rations to wash our faces and hair. After 72 days, the sound of our rescue helicopters was the most beautiful music. I felt such sweet relief when my rescuer threw me into the helicopter. Instead of dying, I spent 26 December drinking champagne with my 16 fellow survivors, reunited with my mother and Soledad. When they came looking for me in a hospital ward in Santiago, neither of them recognized me because I'd lost so much weight. With our long, straggly hair, skeletal frames and sunburned faces, we all looked the same. On the mountain I vowed that if I survived I'd lead a simple and happy life to honor those who died. I married Soledad 8 months later, and with our 3 children and 8 grandchildren I am proud to say I've done exactly that. I have cancer, but I've lived a life without fear, grateful for what I have. Against the odds, although 16 of us survived, many families from our neighborhood of Carrasco in Uruguay were mourning loved ones who had died, so I waited a long time before I felt able to talk publicly about our experience. Eventually I started to give talks about it, sharing with others the incredible sacrifices we all made for one another. I am still close to my fellow survivors and we owe each other everything. We've since returned to the crash site to pay our respects to those who died there. On that mountain I saw the very best of the human spirit, how we fought for one another against all the odds. I learned there that giving is the key to happiness. Although we had nothing, we gave everything for one another, and I feel proud of that.